Hello everyone, I stumbled upon this video titled Women Want It All, Study Reveals What Women Want. And this is a video by Orion Taraban. I think he still is a licensed psychologist. In this video, he used a research. I read the whole thing. What he said, and when you get the full context, things are very different. We're going to watch the video first, and I'm going to explain where things went wrong.
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is Women Want It All. So the title of this episode is actually a riff on one of my all-time favorite psychology research papers entitled Attractive Women Want It All. And I love this paper because it's like the nerds in academic psychology finally researched a question that the average guy both didn't already know the answer to and really wanted to know the answer to, namely the question of what women wanted. So what happened in this study? Basically, the researchers started by asking about 100 guys to rate a whole bunch of women in terms of their attractiveness, their face, their body, and their overall appearance. And the women invited to participate in the study were the ones that the men rated most highly. The researchers then sent these really involved surveys to the women deemed most attractive by the men, and the surveys functionally asked in 100 different ways, ladies, what do you want? Do you want a handsome man? Do you want a rich man? Do you want a family man? Do you want an emotionally available man? Do you want a committed man? What do you want? And how did the women respond? The women basically responded with a single word, yes. It turns out that attractive women wanted every single thing on the list, and this was surprising to the researchers. The women looked at all of these qualities and attributes and collectively said, yeah, sounds good, I'll take it. It's a fascinating study because I think it's very honest, but here's the really interesting part. While the women apparently wanted it all, they didn't want everything equally. The women expressed a positive desire for all the attributes across like 24 different categories. However, some preferences were much stronger than others. And according to the study, the 3 categories that the women cared the least about, do you know what they were? I kind of love this. That he be intelligent, that he be loyal, and that he be kind and understanding. The women would prefer to have those things than not, but those 3 things actually weren't even statistically significant, according to the researchers' analyses: intelligence, loyalty, and kindness. Of the nearly 24 things that attracted women want in a man, these were apparently the 3 attributes they could most readily dispense with. So, what's the upshot? If you're taking the study at face value, it means men. If you want to be a viable option for very attractive women, you need to listen to what these women actually value. If you're putting a lot of energy into your intelligence, your loyalty, and your kindness, especially if doing so detracts from other higher value attributes like being physically fit, earning a lot of money, providing a house, etc., you're probably not going to be picked for dodgeball.
So now that we've watched the video, let me show you what the research really found with all the context and none of the bullshit. I'm just going to give it to you straight. There's a few things I'm going to point out and argue against. The first one is a bit more of an opinion. So the title of this video, Women Want It All, Study Reveals What Women Want. We can agree that this title is misleading because the research is titled Attractive Women Want It All, not Women Want It All. For him to do that was not right. Because when it comes to social media, most of us know the impact that one single word on a headline or a title of a video can have. It can make drastic changes, not only to the context, but sometimes even to the implication, like what you're implying, like, what is going on here? And I think he might know that if he did put attractive women want it all, everyone would be like, well, duh, like, of course. Now, this is what the introduction of the research says, and I'm going to share that with you. The current research tests the hypothesis that women have an evolved mate value calibration adaptation that functions to raise or lower their standard in long-term mate according to their own mate value. So pretty much what they're saying is, generally speaking, women have evolved into adjusting their standard depending on their own value when it comes to long-term relationship. Now, my second point, he said that nerds finally researched the question what women really want, but that's not really what these people aim to do. As I just said, the question about what women really want was already answered many years ago. And it was answered by one of the cited research in this article. It was actually answered much better because that's what they aimed to do. As a matter of fact, they aimed to do that for both men and women. And there were also other research cited that answered more specific questions about what men and women want in terms of preferences. As a professional, he said that he loved this paper because it answered the question of what women wanted.
And I love this paper because it's like the nerds in academic psychology finally researched a question that the average guy both didn't already know the answer to and really wanted to know the answer to, namely the question of what women wanted.
But I think he loved this article because part of this article reinforced his own bias. Plus, I wonder how can he love this research so much yet not share the whole thing with his audience? Like, you ask me anything about relationship dynamics and you will not be able to hear yourself think for about an hour because I just love talking about it and I will give you all the details. Now, the reason why I'm pointing this out is because he omitted a lot of contradictory findings from the research out of this video. The third point is this. The research conclusion was that attractive women do not just want all the good things that a man can offer, right? The look, the money, a good lover, and a good caretaker, but they are rarely able to get all of these things from one man. So what they usually do, they adjust their standard. And I think that is something that most of us already know, right? We did not need research to know that that is the case. Now, where I start to take this research with a microscopic grain of salt is when I started to look at the sample pool. So the sample pool of these attractive women is not that great. And anybody who knows anything about research understand that sample pool really matters because it can heavily affect the result of the whole research. So this is what we have. This sample pool is about 107 married women, Midwestern married women, with a mean age of 24.78 years. And the sample size of all the people involved into this research, so the participant, was about 214 people, and all of them were couples from the Midwest. So pretty much what they had done is they surveyed men and women who were married to each other. As it's stated in the research itself, they are all from the same culture. And I believe there's like a cousin joke somewhere here, but I shall resist it. What I find interesting is that even they stated that a cross-cultural research is needed. So they know that what they have is just not enough to have a solid conclusion and that we need more. So point number 4 is this. He said that he was going to unpack the research, which he did not even to the slightest, because he only covered about maybe 10% of the research. All the information that he gave in this video was from the table itself and nothing else. That's where point number 5 come into play, because he did say the researcher asked 100 men to rate a whole bunch of women's faces, body, and overall attractiveness. Here's what the researchers actually did, and you tell me if that is the truth or not. Judging of physical attractiveness. They say participants were interviewed by 1 male and 1 female interviewers, drawn from a rotating group of 8 interviewers. This is where I got a bit confused, because I was like, well, was the interviewers the researchers, or the interviewers were the couples interviewing each other, rating each other? But we're going to continue. Immediately following the interview, each of the 2 interviewers evaluated each participant on 3 7-point scale. So we have from 1 to 7, how do you find the body, how do you find the face, and how do you find the overall attractiveness. All I've tried to figure out from this was who was the interviewers, because it is not stated, as he said, that 100 men look at pictures of women and rank them by beauty. But he did not put that in his video. He just made something up. And this is where I was like, okay, this is borderline lying to your audience about research. You should not do that if you are a licensed professional. But let's move on to point number 6. He said that most of the attractive women were sent the survey. Well, let's read what the research itself said about the survey. So here we are on the procedure section. They say participants engage in 3 different episodes of assessment as part of a large set of studies. I'm going to skip. I'm going to get to the important part. Spouses were separated to preserve independence and to prevent contamination from contact or discussion. As I said before, these were couple. These were married men and women. I believe that they would have had better result if they did the survey with women who were single. It was during the second testing session that participants completed 4 instruments relevant to the present report. Couple were interviewed toward the end of the second testing session using a standard set of interview questions to provide information about the couple's relationship and to give the interviewers an opportunity to observe participants so that they could provide independent assessment assessments of each participant's physical attractiveness. And this is the reason why I started to feel weird about the whole interviewer participant thing, because I was like, okay, from this, it feels like the researcher were the one that who were actually rating the beauty of the woman and the man. I think there's a version of this for men, and this is the version for women. I don't know what the version for men is. I would love to look at it. So maybe in my free time, I will go ahead and take a look. But as you can see here, this is hinting more towards the fact that it wasn't men who rated these women, and it was actually the scientists or the researchers who rated these women. That is what I'm getting from this. I could be wrong. But at the same time, what he said about the interview being sent to these women who were chosen by these men that were not really who weren't really doing the choosing is not really true. That it's more complicated than what he made it seem. Let's move on to point number 7. He said that women wanted everything and expressed a positive desire for all the options, but let's look at the options. I'm going to show you the table that has all the options. There's a little bit more to this. It's going to be hard to explain, but I'm going to give you all the information necessary for you to understand what's going on. And you might scratch your head as much as I did. Let's look at the table here, right there. So here we have hypothesized good gene indicators. This is just about physical attributes. The issue that I had with this was intelligence being also included in that. Let's look at the options. We have more masculine, physically attractive, good looking, sex appeal, physically fit, and then we have intelligence at the end. If you ask me what is the outlier in this on these options, I will tell you intelligence. All of these is all about physical attractiveness, but they put intelligence in the options. I'm looking at this, I'm like, this should not be there. Intelligence should not be there. So when I saw that, okay, these women rank intelligence the lowest, I wasn't really surprised, because what does intelligence has to do with physical attractiveness, sex appeal, good looking, and being more masculine? Like, it's just off. Let's look at the second category, good investment ability. We have potential income, good earning capacity, college graduate, ambition and industrious, favorable social status and or rating, older than self. The fourth one is hypothesize good parenting indicators. We have desire for home and children, fond of children, likes children. Those two should be the same. That is pretty weird why they would do that. Raising children well, that's another option. Emotional stability and maturity, kind and understanding. Now let's go with the last one, which is hypothesize good partner indicators. I already had a problem with this the moment I saw how many options they showed, because I was like, so you tell me good partner indicators is being loved, devoted to you, and loyal, and that is it? How come there's not more option to this? If you gave me these as an option, I would think that you're very stupid. So these were the options that were given to this woman. And then he says, well, they chose everything. Me, I'm thinking, well, you gave only good options. These are all good options. My issue with that, this might not be the full list. So there's a part of the research where they talk about the mate preference, how they put all the options together to present it to this woman. And they say the factor in choosing a mate originally was developed by sociologists in the 1930s. This instrument seeks biographical information, age preference in a partner, and has participant rate 18 mate characteristic on a scale from 0 to 3. The second one is preference concerning potential mate questionnaire. This one has 13 options to choose from, but this one, unlike the previous one, is ranked from 1 to 13. So from most important to least important. Let's continue, because there is a third one, which is family and marital preference questionnaire. This one has 83 options. They have to rank this one from 0 to 2. None of these are rated the same way. Hello guys, this is Editing Christian here. So as I was editing this section of the video, I realized that the reason why they chose all the options is because it wasn't optional. These were rated from highest to lowest. It wasn't an option of taking one and discarding the other one. So it wasn't as if you would take A but not B, C but not D. No, you just had to rate them from least important to most important. So usually when people do surveys like this, by default, you are taking all the options that are available. You're just ranking them from most important to least important. That's really why it seemed as though they chose every single options, because they just didn't have the choice. Now let's try to connect the dots here. Hypothesize good genes, good investment ability, good parenting, and good partner indicators. I try to connect the dots with these. I cannot tell you which one is from which when it comes to these questionnaire and things like the 13 characteristic for mate. I don't know. We have no idea. So pretty much what I was thinking was this. We have 18 plus 13 plus 83. That is 114. These are 114 options that are not shown on the table. We are going to discuss that a little bit more. But let's talk about point number 8. So Orion Taraban said that amongst the 12 things women were asked to choose from, they cared the least about loyalty, kindness, and intelligence. As I previously explained, something is off there. So there's a good chance Mr. Taraban did not really take his time to look at this properly. I have two issues with this. The first thing is that there's more than 24 options. We already established it was 18 plus 13 plus 83. That is 114th option. But we're not shown these options. So it's possible that the options that we have on the table are only the ones that were presented to these women. So as I said before, if I was presented these options too, I would rate them pretty high and I would choose every single one. So it's not even that they say they want everything, it's that they didn't have a choice to not choose any because they had to just rank them. It's not like they can say, okay, I don't want this one, I want this one, I don't want this one. They could say 0, I guess, but who wants to say 0 to intelligence? And that raises a lot of questions. At least it made me scratch my head a little bit. The more I kept looking into this, the more I really started to pay attention to everything that was going on in this research. Because if those were the option that they had, they should have put marked everything very high. So maybe I'm missing something. Or there's a good chance, and this is me speculating, these Midwestern married women in their 20s had different priorities in 2006, maybe 2005, when they were participating in that research. I think that's a fair guess. It might not be true, but now the second problem that I have is the fact that there are some discrepancies in these options. So for example, intelligence in physical attractiveness category is ranked very low. As I explained before, it doesn't make sense. But then you look at the option for good investment ability and you see that college graduate is ranked very high. Well, not very high, but relatively high to its category, but also extremely high to pretty much double intelligence. So something is going on. Now we have emotional stability and maturity and kind and understanding. You would assume that kind and understanding is implied. So there's a bit of discrepancy there. It's like, why are those broken down the way they are? But it's not over because in the last one, being a loving partner and devotion are also separated. Now, wouldn't you say that many of these either require each other to work or to make sense, right? To actually actualize, okay, that's a new thing, or they are similar in some way. So you have to ask yourself, well, why would they present these things the way they are? Because it's shown here that they can provide two options at once. They did kindness and understanding together. They did emotional stability and maturity together. So what is really going on here? Or the second question you can ask yourself is, why are the ratings so drastically different? Why is intelligence rated so low in this category? I already kind of spitballed it before. I just said, listen, it doesn't make sense to have physical attractiveness next to intelligence, and that can throw people off. So I don't understand what's really going on because I feel like they messed up really bad. The way they did this whole research, the sample size, the people that they use were not diverse enough, and they even told us that the people that they used were not diverse enough. So this research itself is not enough to have a conclusive understanding of what's going on. So when this man said, if you want to bag an attractive woman or if you want to get an attractive woman, you don't need kindness, you don't need intelligence and loyalty and devotion. So then let's go with what he said. You only need the things that women rate highly in order for you to bag them, the attractive woman. You only need looks and you only need money. But here's something that I found very weird. He never mentioned child care, liking children, being fond of children, being good at raising children. I had to watch the video over and over again. He never mentioned it. And I know why he never mentioned it. You can come to your own conclusion, but I know why he never mentioned it. Some of you guys know why. It was not a mistake. Now, when it comes to the research itself, due to the fact that there was only about 104 women who were basically the same person, in my opinion, who took the survey, it's dishonest to use this research as proof that women want the same thing as these women in the research. It's dishonest to generalize. Even when using it to say that all attractive women want the same thing or all attractive women want everything, it's a slippery slope. And scientifically speaking, it is not enough proof, because the article itself said that it's not enough proof on multiple occasions. All of this to say that we should be able, and we should try better and try harder to hold people like him, people who are professionals, to a higher standard. Anyway, enough yapping. I decided that I would share the truth with my audience and offset some of the negativity in his video created. If you take advice from him, please be careful. Just because someone is a licensed professional doesn't mean that they're telling you the truth, and I think that's dangerous.